welcome everyone. I hope you can hear me in the back there. Thank you. So we'll start with a meditation to bring the mind and body in the present moment and to optimize learning in a calm, gentle, peaceful mind that is aware and knowing. So if you wish, you may close your eyes and find yourself in a comfortable position where if you have to move, you do so without effort. Ensure your back is straight, allowing the energies to flow freely throughout your body. And keeps the mind alert, aware. And working with you in this moment. So we gather the mind to a central point, usually the breath. This way it centers the mind within your own mind space, consciousness. And notice the rhythm of your breathing. And as you're breathing, imagine that the breath is moving within the body, moving upwards, ascending, down, descending in a rhythm, or simultaneously breathing in, breath rising up and down, and breathing out. Just focus on the movement of the breath within your body for a moment. And if there are thoughts that want their attention, in the spaciousness of your mind, allow the thoughts some distance, floating in, floating out, and return your concentration back to the breath. And now release the thought on the breath and focus your awareness on your body, mind, space. As if your whole mind is the shape of your body, your form. And we'll look for any tightness, sense any tightness that is the impediment to calm abiding. We'll check the forehead for any tightness. Release any tension. And then we bring our attention to the eyes. Release any tension there. So that your eyes become soft and relaxed. Down to the facial muscles, the jaw, the tongue at the top of the palate relaxed, down to the neck, back of the head, shoulders, arms, left arm, right arm, down to the hands, the back, your back, to the legs, knees, ankles and feet. And now feel the breath move within the body again. You may feel the calmness imbued in strength. So take a deep breath in and then we breathe out. And the breath out would release any concerns, anything worrying you, plans for the future. and return to the present moment. You feel the temperature in the room, the gentle sounds of the wind outside, the cushion, the chair, and your breathing. So when you're ready, you may gently open your eyes or stay in your state. So welcome again. This is the final class for 2022. And we're going to discuss a number of subjects, two of which were included last week. And last week we did the generosity, we did perfection of generosity, ethics, patience, joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom. And what makes them perfect, or the perfection, is we can join them with the three supreme qualities. That every time we engage in a thought of generosity, every time we engage in an act of generosity, every time we create a state of being, a gift to give to others, we have the supreme qualities of the supreme purpose of bodhicitta, the intention, the method of relying on the three emptinesses: emptiness of subject, emptiness of object, and emptiness of the act of giving. And in the dedication, these three supreme qualities make the act one of the six, or all of the six perfections, a perfection. So there's two things that we will discuss from last week that are relevant to understanding and the path to enlightenment. The first is the gathering virtue with ethics of benefiting living beings. We spoke of how each perfection feeds off the next in terms of understanding and benefiting yourself and sentient beings. So one of those is those, or benefiting those on the wrong path and ignorant of the methods, which is the cause and effect, and have entered into wrong livelihood, that is, acquiring wealth and a living through non-virtuous means. And the other is benefiting those in need of help and protecting those in danger. So when it comes to protecting those on the wrong path, some of you may have heard of the Liberation Project by Venerable Thubten. She established a number of committees and groups that visit prisoners and teach them the Dharma. It does not matter what the prisoner or the crime that they've committed. Rabina Thubten will simply go with her other nuns and teach them meditation. So when the non-virtue arises, they can apply concentration and some form of mitigation in order to control their emotions. And there's a beautiful story from one of the prisoners that was taught by a number of nuns. And the nuns, along with many other people, attempted to overturn the ruling of the death sentence for this young man. And it took a number of years to finally reach the courts, and the jury decided that they would not overturn the death sentence. So in those 2 years, he spent a lot of time with the nuns. And a day before his execution, he wrote a letter to the nuns thanking them. And this is an extract to that letter. Wow, karma is tough, but the good side can outweigh that. It is up to me. I'd wish I'd seen this 40 years ago. I pray I'll be able to keep a clear, peaceful mind and just let go at the time of death. I keep telling myself that I've lived out this negative karma and see the death as a new start and a chance to do it all right again in the next life. I pray I'll be able to do much good for the Dharma and for others in my next life. And he recited Om Mani Padme Hum as he was injected. That is not a common story, but it's a powerful story of the workings of the Dharma and the subtleties of people that are helping others. The nuns originally just wanted to help the prisoners to develop a different state of mind so they can be rehabilitated before being released. But such power was their generosity of helping that something like this can emerge as a jewel in this world that needs such jewels. The same with benefiting those in need and help in protecting those in danger. Some of you may know the story of Donald Taylor Ritchie. He was an Australian who intervened with many suicides. He lived in Sydney, very close to the Gap. He was called the Angel of the Gap. And what he did is every night he'd go to the Gap and he'd look for anyone that was standing near the cliff or the fence near the cliff. And he just started a very quiet, gentle conversation with them. And in those years that he did that, it was estimated that he saved 160 people from committing suicide. Others he couldn't. But he's remembered through this incredible, powerful words. Don't underestimate the incredible power of a simple smile and a kind word. These two stories demonstrate the natural energy that we spoke of last week in terms of the generosity, your ethics, patience, your concentration, etc. And how the more we become aware of who we are in terms of what qualities that we have, the more we're able to be those qualities with everyone we meet. So why is ethics so important? Because ethics is a commitment to not harming other sentient beings or self. And you can do that with the way that you think of somebody, your speech about someone, and how you act towards someone. So if we don't develop ethics in this lifetime, we will continue to harm others. Not only this lifetime, but in future lifetimes. And sometimes knowing that we can harm others in the future is enough to bring the ethics to you. Ethics is basis of all good qualities, just as the earth is the basis of the moving and unmoving. So we often talk about a precious human rebirth. It is no accident that you're born a human. It is no accident that you have leisure, you have money, you have time. We live in a country where we have freedom to choose whatever religion we want to practice. It's an amazing country, Australia. We also are born in the light eon, where there are 1,000 Buddhas that give teachings all the time. So we're very fortunate to be born a human. But you were born a human because you practiced ethics in your past lives. So congratulations, you did not harm anyone. And that is one of the key causes that results in a human rebirth. So giving protection is also very important and not very widely discussed to an unwilling slave who is dominated by another. So hence all the good work going around in terms of abolishing slavery, trafficking, and all the work that the emergency services do in protecting others and helping others. All the work in Australia for family violence, which brings to the subject of being controlled by others, which is discussed in all the 6 perfections and can be an obstacle as to why we're not progressing or achieving our goals. Even to think about your dreams and why we're not achieving them is food for thought on how we are controlled by others. The first stage of knowing that you're controlled is recognizing it. Sometimes we do things against what our natural propensity is because we're trying to please somebody. If that comes from an act of generosity, from a pure heart and from bodhicitta, there is the power that generates itself is incredibly strong, and it's a fuel and keeps you going. However, if you are trying to please somebody or a group of people because you have fear and you're trying to tame them, then your energy starts to diminish. You're basically giving up your full potential, living in the fear zone. Or because you want to continue in an organisation or a community, but they're a dominant person that always raises their head. So that is why meditation is important, to really key into and understand what is it that your own self, your own nature is connecting with. So the first stage of being controlled by others is knowing that you are allowing others to control you, or the behaviours of those people are causing you to behave differently to protect yourself when they appear in your space. That's the first stage, knowing that there is this control happening. The second stage of knowing about control is that seeing that person and analysing that person in terms of how they behave with you or how they behave with other people. Is it consistent? Are they targeting you because you're gentle and kind? Or are they targeting you because they want something that you have and they can't have? Or are they a wing clipper that will stop you from progressing? And they do exist in corporate everywhere, where they inhibit the development and growth of an individual just so they have that gap and they're seen as the expert. So sometimes it's worth looking at that, because unravelling it allows you to start stopping that control. Once that is established, or even intuitively established, then you start to get your own energy back, a power within. And you do not bend in any way in terms of that person or the persons or the presence. So the next stage is allowing yourself and thinking of how you will release that control in that environment. and observe your own self. Do you act like a child in front of them? Do you model their behaviour? Do you become disgruntled with them or get angry? And you start reclaiming that. And the next stage is releasing that control. And that control of others upon yourself is extremely subtle. But once investigated, and once that karma diminishes, that intuition, that self, that natural nature within you can develop. When we give compassion to others, we also experience empathy, feeling what it's like or imagining what it's like for others. And that is a meditation that we do when we talk about bodhicitta. We imagine what it was like for that person to experience that pain. But empathy is necessary to develop compassion, but you can actually have too much empathy where it actually works against you and it never manifests and morphs into compassion. You've heard it before of empathetic distress. It's talked a lot in Buddhist centres everywhere, but nowhere is it researched and understood the most by the person called Tanya Singer. Tanya is a social neuroscientist and psychologist and world expert on empathy and compassion. She's also the director of the Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences in Leipzig, Germany, and has met with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So what is Tanya saying in all her research? Well, she identified very clearly when we over-empathise with somebody who's experiencing pain, for example, and they're in a hospital environment. And as some of you would know, that pain management is very, very, very skilled, because there's a part of the pain and then there's the medication. Too much medication, addiction arises. So you visit somebody in the hospital and they've just been given their pain medication. There's all the charts written as to why and how often and the volume of the pain medication. But then you come along and they're doing well before you come along, but because they've got a very close relationship with you, they start complaining about the pain. So you feel accountable and responsible for this person, and by their reaction you take it and are led to believe that they have not been given their pain medication. So you storm out there and you talk to a nurse and you say, why hasn't this person been given pain medication? Well, in that moment what's happening is that you're taking on the pain of that person. You've taken on that responsibility. Now the pain is yours, or the act of fixing it. And when you're explained by the nurse as to why you cannot give her or him more pain medication, you can't fix it. So what do you do with this pain? That's empathetic distress, when you take on too much and you don't know how to remove it. So the focus was originally compassion and empathy on the patient. Now it's gone to you. So you are attempting and self-grasping of self and identity, and you need to remove it. So the focus is on you now, and that can so easily happen. However, Avalokiteshvara, which is a Buddha who saw so much suffering and was meditating and removing the suffering by their mind, and then was given a clairvoyant vision of how much more suffering there was on this earth, in these worlds, that they just were crippled with that pain and broke into 1,000,000 pieces, thus the arms of Avalokiteshvara. So there is the wisdom of knowing that there is pain, But there is also the other wisdom and the method of how we deal with those pains and how we develop our compassion. So people like Tanya Singer is not famous. Donald Ritchie got an OAM, but what's Tara getting? Is she known? Is she going to be famous? She's famous within her circles of her groups. All the nuns, are they going to get an OAM? I doubt it. But if you're working towards being recognised, it is not a natural compassion. So we're going to talk about adventitious defilements, but before we do, it's just important to know about the Buddhist doctrine and the continuity of mind. Most religious doctrines assert one life with one rebirth upon death, and depending on how that life is lived, that one continuity of conscious is either goes to heaven or goes to hell. And that rebirth is eternal. However, in the Buddhist philosophy, we believe in a continuity of mind, many rebirths, many lives, and the destination or where they land is dependent upon not just the previous life, but many lives beforehand. We go through endless higher rebirths, endless lower rebirths. And these are very much uncontrolled. But when one meets the Dharma and understands karma, and truly understands karma, and has imbued previous lives, and has understood that we may have created all the positive karmas and all the negative karmas that one can imagine in past lives, then the mental continuum of that individual may mitigate an uncontrolled rebirth. And knowing that our mind is clear by nature, the question arises, how does karma accumulate in our mental continuum? Now, mental continuum is not a soul like the theists determine. The soul, from a Catholic or Christian point of view, is your personality, your faith, God within you, and your commitment to Jesus Christ or your commitment to God. And it is that purified soul that they establish leaves the body and goes to heaven. From a Buddhist perspective, we have a mental continuum. And that mental continuum is like a very soft energy, that it accumulates this karma, both positive and negative. So who we are today is a result of our past karma. Right at this moment, it is determined we have the karma to establish the next rebirth. So all our actions from past and present lives creates an imprint. Just using this paper, for example, our mind is clear and knowing, but our actions create imprints on that. So everything in theory, according to the Buddhist teachings, is a manifestation of our own mental continuum. So what we see out there, how others engage with us, whether we treat it well or not treat it well, is an appearance of our karma. Now, to some, that will be difficult to apprehend and maybe rejecting it. And that's okay. Because the Buddha says, don't take my word, you investigate yourself. But for those who have established that our whole world and who we are is a manifestation of our karma, both good and bad, they develop a thing called the mirror wisdom, where everything you see is a manifestation not only of your karma, but of the Dharmakaya. So thus this verse, and we'll say it in a way that respects those that believe in the Dharma mirror. When I look closely at the Dharma mirror and see the form of my past actions, I immediately become distressed and orientate myself to the Dharma. So for yourself and others, it is in a way liberating to know that the karma that we've created is manifesting in this world. So one of the first things the Buddhist doctrine asserts is we develop the purification methods to purify our karma. When you're in a reflective state, as we age, we start to become aware of all the things that we did when we were younger. So we reflect on our lives. Even something that we've done 40, 50 years ago can be purified. Even something that we've done a second ago can be purified by 4 opponent powers. The power of the object. So I've acted non-virtuously. And according to the Buddha Dharma, or whatever religious doctrine you uphold, you have the power of the object. So the object is the spiritual teaching. So you've compared your action to the teaching. So you bring the mind back to the teaching. Then you have the opponent power of regret. I regret what I've done. Then you have the opponent power of the opposite. So if I've been impatient, I will now practice impatience or patience. And the commitment, the opponent power of the commitment, is I shall attempt to practice patience, even just maybe for half a day, an hour. I'll try at the supermarket where everyone's busy. And that is very, very powerful. Holding the object, having regret, using the opposite, and a commitment to keep from or refrain from doing that for whatever period of time. A colleague of mine once shared a story about a patient in a mental health ward, and the colleague was a Lutheran chaplain. And he was saying that he met this very gentle and sincere man who realised that he had created or behaved non-virtuously all his life, taking drugs, behaviours to maintain the drug addiction. And the conversation went on to God. And this patient said, I'm not worthy of God's love. So the Lutheran chaplain explored that and helped that patient to understand that he was worthy of God's love. But from a Buddhist perspective, what's identifiable with that patient was he had the power of the object. He understood the beauty, the pureness, the unconditional love of a being. And he compared himself to that. But isn't it wonderful that he was acknowledging something far greater? That to even acknowledge it meant that he had those qualities within him. And that's what we forget. Those beautiful qualities that we see in others is something that is so empowering to the individual. Because the more we focus on virtuous thoughts and actions and not see all the ugliness in there, in this world that can be, we generate like a wave of virtuous thoughts that combine with the virtuous thoughts of all sentient beings. So we're adding to this world greater happiness. And in concentration, when we start to develop our meditation practice, concentration allows you to focus on an object for whatever time that you wish. Concentration also can develop in a clairvoyance of yourself and a clairvoyance of others. And there are two ways that you can attain concentration: in an activity and in meditation. There's a book called The Buddha's Lions, and they're all siddhis who weren't able to meditate but were doing activities. One was a cobbler. The story that I remember the most is the cobbler that focused on making shoes and only on making shoes. His whole mind was in the present, totally on the activities that he was performing at the time. No thoughts entered his mind. His mind wasn't scattered, but he was able to hold that one concentration. And in doing that, over a period of time, he became a siddhi, which is those that can actually meditate and attain enlightenment. Meditation, of course, is not always liked by the Western world. They're too busy to meditate, or if they try, all the thoughts come in. From a Buddhist perspective, the thoughts coming in is natural. So if you're pre-warned that the thoughts will come in, gradually by developing the habit of meditation and focusing on the breath, you'll get used to the thoughts. Because whatever you do regularly, you develop a skill for it. Like who's ever tried to run a distance or two would know that the lungs and the legs and the muscles all have to work together. You can run a short distance and be out of breath. Same with meditation. It's a skill, it's a habit. And you may not see immediate change, but you will see long term what those changes are. Because in concentration and in meditation, you become aware of much, much more than just who you are. You become aware of peoples and places, all different faces, your environment. So in the perfection of wisdom, the Buddha's teachings tell us that who we are and what we are and the things around us is based on causes and conditions, on parts, and also the mind labelling that part. So just a brief intro into emptiness. The emptiness is not a voidness. Emptiness is not the ability where your mind becomes totally blank. Emptiness is basically a recognition that nothing exists on its own inherently. But we see, like the chair exists, it's inherent, exists on its own side. However, when you analyse the chair, you realise that somebody had to make it. The plastic either came from Australia or overseas. It wasn't created by its own causes. And it also requires someone to look at it and say, well, that is a chair. So that's what in a way, emptiness means. It is a translation of not being inherently existent, or devoid of being inherently existent. So if you look at yourself, you come from parents. Your parents came from parents, and so forth and so forth and so forth. So we exist because we're dependent on others. Our food, our education are all dependent on others. Yet the Western world says, you've got to achieve. And you see all those achievers that say, I did this, this is how I did it. And all the Westerners, the hungry Westerners for power and money, they're attracted to this one individual to generate more power, more fame, more recognition in this world. But that person is a result of causes and conditions. So how do we then release ourselves from perpetual suffering? Well, as we spoke about last week, everything that we do, everything we see, everything that we hear, all our actions and all our words and all our thoughts are dependent upon many things like our 5 aggregates. The form, how we think, how we perceive people, what we think, how we act. And meditation allows that to be purified and purified of the aggregates. For as long as we engage the world with our contaminated aggregates, the more we perpetuate suffering within our lives. The Buddhas knew and had mirror wisdom and could see that everything was a manifestation of their Dharmakaya. Every object perceived by the Buddha is pure. And some of you have been lucky to meet somebody who you believe in your heart was a Buddha or is a Buddha. And how peaceful you were in their presence. But sometimes that peacefulness is being present with a being, a person that really accepts you who you are, as you are, without any judgment. And as we meditate, we start to develop those skills and attributes and presence and being, that people are no longer afraid to be in your presence, and a trust develops. So even to think of the Dharma in terms of emptiness generates inordinate amount of merit and can actually shatter cyclic existence to know that we are able to be liberated. Causes and conditions, everything you see is your mirror. So just sit with that for a moment. I'm going to read you a very important text that is from the Path to Enlightenment, and you may just wish to go back into your comfortable position. We will conclude this session with another meditation, but this is one just to be totally relaxed. It is a summary of the human being. Some teachings of thousands of years ago. It is a time when we were pure, knowing. It connects us to our Buddha nature, our purity of mind. So as these words are spoken, imagine them as just words, visions, at a distance. In the spaciousness of your mind. A mind that is pure and aware. A mind that has no limitations. And so we begin. Bhikkhu, whoever sees dependent arising sees phenomena. Whoever sees phenomena sees the Buddha. Due to the existence of this, that arises. Due to the production of this, that is produced. It is thus. Due to ignorance, there is compositional action. Due to compositional action, there is consciousness. Due to consciousness, there is name and form. Due to name and form, there are the 6 sense sources. Due to 6 sense sources, there is contact. Due to contact, there is feeling. Due to feeling, there is attachment. Due to attachment, there is grasping. Due to grasping, there is existence. Due to existence, there is birth. Due to birth, there is aging and death. Due to aging and death, there is sorrow. And grief, suffering, unhappiness, and conflict will arise. Thus, the great suffering of the aggregates is produced. Now see the words floating away at a distance. And you become more relaxed. And you feel a lightness in your body. And then the silhouette of your body becomes translucent. And within the center, the nature, the pure nature within your body extends outward. In this lightness, in this calmness. And whilst you can, on an unconscious level, identify yourself as a human, your body is light-natured. Your form is light-natured. And the six sources are purified in the form of your late or light-natured body. So whatever you see, perceive, you perceive the purity of self and others. Whatever you hear is pure. You perceive the deepest meanings in every word. You hear the whispers of the Buddha's teachings. You hear it in the wind, blowing through trees and leaves. You hear words and understand the meanings, and through your ability are able to benefit others. And through this light-natured body, your speech becomes pure. Every word spoken benefits others. Every word spoken benefits self. And your taste is purified in this light-natured body. So you have the one taste of conventional and ultimate truths. You taste that everything around you is due to causes and conditions people, places, they do not inherently exist by their own side. And you acquire the taste that everything can be purified. And in this light-natured body, all your actions are pure. To benefit self, to benefit others. Bodhicitta. And in this light-natured body, your mind is pure. And in this purity is a knowing, a clairvoyance, ways to help others. ways to benefit others. And within that light-natured body is energy and power, or force, of brilliance, where the three times come as one: the past, present, and future. And a recognition of all deeds of past lives, regret, and with the heart of a bodhisattva, and the commitment to benefit others. All past negative karmas are purified in one instant. So we let go of the past and be present. Be present in the pure nature of your form. In a body consisting of parts and labels, outward appearance as a human, but inwardly your Buddha nature. So take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. You're aware of this room, the cushions, the chair, the sounds outside. The melodious sounds. So now you may wish to open your eyes or remain in your state while we explain the next meditation. The next meditation we're going to do with the remaining 10 minutes of this session is exchanging self with others. It was first practiced by Lama Tsongkhapa, and it is a very, very powerful meditation. However, one needs to be ready to do it and prepared to do it. It in no way affects your own health. it in no way affects your physical and mental health. It is a mind training, a very powerful mind training. The Buddha's teachings are often contradictory for a purpose. We take vows for those who are aspirants on the Bodhisattva path. So here's two different contradictions. One of the branch vows says that not avoiding a bad reputation. So when others criticize you and damage your reputation, you should endeavour to clear your name. But on the other hand, there's a mind training by Geshe Loden, who towards the end of his life said, "Because of my many wishes, I have endured suffering, insults and criticism. I received the instructions for taming self-grasping. Now if I die, I have no regrets." So the Buddha's teachings are designed to suit every practitioner on every step of their spiritual path in any lifetime. Continues and continues. And for the questions that was asked last week in terms of our natural energy to meditate, you'll be one of three of these types of individuals. There's a solitary realizer or a self-realizer. This is a person who comes into this life and attains liberation from cyclical existence autonomously without relying on a teacher. So there's a continuity of mind. They've practiced in a past life, they've come in this life, they just continue. It's similar to a pianist, a highly acclaimed pianist, a prodigy, that doesn't have to practice that much. It comes into this life knowing the basics. Celine Dion never practiced singing. She practiced her American and English, but she was born with the talent of the singing. Or you may be a hero or a Hinayana practitioner. That means you hear the teachings and you learn from them, but you're also good at teaching them. Both a solitary realizer and a hearer spend a lot of time on their own, like they need to be able to tap into their energies. They'll socialize, they'll hear, but they need that time to reflectively think and meditate. They are very much connected with where their spiritual path is leading. And some of the stories of a solitary realizer says that he's used out in the garden somewhere and got a deep calling or an understanding that they need to go inside and meditate. Just meditate. There's something happening and they honour that. And that's that intuition that you feel, that you go into a state, something's happening. Could have been a very difficult encounter. But utilising those encounters to progress on the spiritual path. Then a Mahayanist will do everything to encounter individuals to benefit others, but they can be either those that like the social interactions, a high level of social interactions, or do with what's enough, then go in private and meditate. So they're the different energies, and don't beat yourself up of one not being one or the other. Follow your own internal guidance. The Buddha nature is within you. You may just be in that moment once, and it could be caused by being in the garden, following an encounter, receiving kindness. The way that the receipt of kindness and feeling it within your heart can do to the awakening mind. or just being able to empathize with somebody, feel their pain. They're all key triggers to being given gifts, to look at those gifts and study them and meditate on them. But we miss those subtle marks, we miss those signs because we're busy living. And the more that you are aware of yourself and others, those signs will appear as guides. The thing is, we're not alone. There are spiritual beings who are constantly praying for us. The Bodhisattvas are in prayers. For those from the theism religion, God's always praying. So sometimes all one needs to do in a moment is open up to the love, the compassion, the prayers. If you had all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to your right, you could see them praying. If all those Tankas were Buddhas and Bodhisattvas praying, how would that affect you? The intellect, the heart. The mind is in the heart. What if in meditation you're given a gift, a blessing? What if in a quiet moment you acknowledged all the Bodhisattvas praying continuously and rejoice in their merit? So I wish to be like you. Please bless me to practice what pleases you most, so that I too may have the one taste and the knowing. So this meditation, the last moments of this session, will be about taking in the suffering of others in the form of black smoke, and around our heart is a rock. And this rock symbolizes self-cherishing. And as we take in the people suffering around us, it crushes the rock. And one of our most senior students here said that it's amazing how this meditation can change and reduce your self-cherishing. And doing this meditation generates an inordinate amount of merit and does a massive purification. Because all of a sudden, it's just not about me or you, it's about others. And so the shift begins. We shall show you the beginning of attaining all your wishes. So we take a comfortable position, back straight, relaxed. If you wish to move, you can. And you enter this meditation with a sense of joy. You're giving your time generously. You're practicing ethics. You're practicing patience, joyous effort. You're concentrating and developing wisdom. So with a relaxed body and mind, tasting as one, imagine in front of you, visualize, surrounded by all living beings, human, non-human. and reflect on the suffering that they experience. Think of all the animals slaughtered for food. Animals eaten by animals. Think of the wars, famine. Just be aware of the suffering, but with enough distance between yourself and that suffering. See it like a movie. Many movies all coming as one, frame by frame. Awareness, knowing, and if possible, imagine now all living beings surround you, in front of you, behind, left, right, above, and below. Limitless sentient beings. And you wish for everyone to be freed from suffering. So with that thought, you take an in-breath and imagine that all the suffering of sentient beings is drawn in like black smoke around you, and drawing in to your heart where there's a rock, and the pain of that suffering caused by self-cherishing shatters the rock surrounding your heart. And in that you purify the suffering of all living beings and return as white light, giving away all your merit, your good conditions, your virtues to others. Such is an aspirant on the Bodhisattva path. Mind training of the highest quality. And you see sentient beings around you in the light of your compassion, generosity of giving away all your virtues, good conditions. See them all as light-natured. And then you notice beyond your vision more sentient beings suffering. So with your strength and commitment, you breathe in all their suffering. in the form of black smoke, entering your heart and smashing the rock, or the remnants of self-cherishing. And in that commitment, you purify all the suffering. In the form of white light. And give back and give all your merit, good conditions, virtues to others. And now you can visualize as far your mind can imagine outward, that those two sentient beings are now full of light, happy. And you have the one taste of others in you. The one taste of being as one. The non-dual understanding. Because hearers and solitary realizers are born from Buddhas. Buddhas are born from Bodhisattvas. This compassionate mind and non-dual understanding are the causes of Bodhisattvas. Because this compassion alone is the seed of the victor's rich harvest. And like the water for its development, to be enjoyed for a long time, I therefore shall praise compassion at the start. So our practice is dedicated with all our hearts so that all sentient beings and self attain enlightenment. And whilst we know that everything exists as a result of causes and conditions, we understand the two truths of conventional and ultimate truth. And we know things can be purified. Anything can be purified. So we take a deep breath in and a breath out. And may the merit of this meditation be the cause for your ultimate enlightenment. And may the memory, the learning, the experience in concentration and in wisdom be with you. So when you're ready, you may gently open your eyes. So thank you for your presence, your understanding, your commitment. I also like to thank Venerable Anna Goldstein, who did the first 4 weeks, the first 2 weeks of this session, all previous teachers. And Geshe Acharya Thubten Loden, which was our spiritual teacher, for creating such books, teaching, so we can continue to practice. He often said that his legacy are his books. So may you have peace, harmony, good conditions, and extremely good health. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Tea and coffee will be served in that, and I think no one's got any questions online, so we shall now conclude. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a wrap. Please feel free to exit. There's okay, I'm a little bit humbled.